Happy Monday morning, my friend. Mojo Monday.
We made it back to Monday, Brett. Let's do this
I know, every Monday, right?
every Monday.
Oh
It's
man,
a
I'm
habit.
excited. It's a there you go. It is a habit. We are in our second series, I guess, of this book here, Atomic Habits by James Clear. Tiny changes, remarkable results, an easy and proven way to build good habits and break bad ones. You know, we were talking last week about, a lot of people equate the word habit with negative, like, oh, it's all my bad habits, but we're really talking about creating good habits, right? And we're really talking about creating big lives and powerful lives, all done by 1% changes. Tell me about that.
Well, it's just incremental change creates a different you, but it's time over, time on task over time. It's not quantum leaps, it's small steps that's made evident in this book. And I agree with it. And you are your habits. That's the other. That was one of the early slaps to the, right to my conscious brain. Like your habits, you stack your habits. That's the collective that's you as a person. And they're all modifiable, especially when you break them down into bite-sized pieces.
Absolutely. So you brought up something that I actually had on my list, and I think you're very wise in talking about your conscious brain. And I think habits go through that whole cycle where we unconsciously don't know we need it, and then consciously we got to bring it to the forefront of our brain where we're like, yeah, hey, I need to wake up at 5:30 in the morning. I need to put my shoes next to my bed to make my high probability of going to the gym. But at some point in time, a habit actually becomes unconscious again, right? Tell me about that.
Well, that becomes the unconscious competence is the ultimate zone where your habits are just part of, your DNA. They're ingrained. This is just what you do, just like the habit of a cup of coffee. If it serves you well, awesome. But if that's not serving you well and it's become something that you either can't live without or never miss, what if you substituted great habits for all of those marginal ones in your life for automated, that subconscious competence, zone, if you will. I mean, what a gift. But it starts with small steps in the right direction. Then to your point, backing up and recognizing what habits are defining you currently.
There you go. Well, this book kind of breaks it down into 4 areas, and we're going to go through the 4 areas. But today's area, Rick, is make it obvious. And it's almost like success is simple. And this is a little bit of a no-brainer topic, if you will, when we talk about making it obvious. But then again, there's a reason it's in the book, because as simple as it might be, we probably need the reminder, or we complicate it, right? We tend to complicate these things. So the first talking point really around making it obvious is having a scorecard. And what the author basically suggests is write down all the things that you have habits around. And then rate them. Is it a positive habit in your life? Is it a negative habit in your life? Is it a neutral habit in your life? And really, it's all about just making yourself aware of what habits you actually have in your life to start with, right? Scorecards are easy, but then again, it's back to the report card growing up, right? Like, is it a negative or a positive response? Depends on how you, I guess, how you did in school.
Well, it's near impossible to amend a behavior or habit until you recognize that it exists and what what it looks like. So yeah, I'm with you. Not everybody loves scorecards, but I would say that, if you agree with us, and we talk about the wheel of life often, that there's, 12 categories that holistically, when combined, make for a rewarding, exciting, maybe legacy even at the end of the rainbow for you. And so part of the scorecard might be taking a holistic approach to breaking down what habits define success in each category. And back to your point, how can you rate them? Or not how, but by rating them 1 to 10, you'll create areas of awareness. And that awareness is the secret sauce to change.
And it just goes back to, it's taking it from the unconscious and making it conscious. The exercise puts that conscious awareness down on paper. Number 2, you actually talked about this one in our first video last week a little bit. It's called habit stacking. And why don't you just quickly retell kind of your coffee story? Because I think it's a great example of what habit stacking really is.
Yeah, well, it was made aware to me by my doctor and by an outside consultant, a health therapist, if you will, that, hey, you'd be well served to take turmeric daily, some collagen powder in your coffee. And then, I've got a cholesterol challenge that I'm working through. And then a multivitamin like a Mega Man. It's expensive, but, I actually feel a difference. It must be loaded with B12 in there too. But the secret for me isn't that I get up every day and think, oh my gosh, I need to take all of my, health nutrients and enhancements, but I park them right in front of the coffee mug so that it's undeniably obvious. I literally trip over it to get to my mug. And then it's a trigger to be able to, to remind me to put the collagen and turmeric in my coffee. And then when it cools down enough, I've already pulled out the other 2 pills I take so that I can take those with it.
Yep. It's perfect. So really the concept of habit stacking is there's habits in our life that are going to happen. We've already created those habits. I will wake up at 5:30 every day. Maybe I should put my workout shoes next to the bed, stack those habits, and that would create that connection. You put your vitamins next to the coffee. As you're sitting here telling me your story, I'm going, I should be putting a glass of water next to the coffee every morning. So I drink more water with my coffee. Yep. There you go.
That's right. Sits right in front of the coffee maker as well. And it's an
There you go.
oversized
You gotta
cup.
stack it. Like you did it without even us talking about it. Great job, Rick. All right. Number 3
Lots are
talking
good.
point is environment versus motivation. Motivation is such a powerful thing, and it's got to come from within. You can't really motivate people. You can motivate them and help them find their motivation, but it's really an internal thing. But what he talks about in this book is motivation is not the secret sauce. He believes it's the environment and setting yourself up to succeed based on environment. And, I find myself, I've found over the years, for me to be productive, and I like working from home on a rare occasion too. I understand why people sometimes like that. But the reality is, I thrive in a structured, scheduled environment. And when I get up and I go to the office and I find my place in the world where I'm productive and it's structured, that environment lends me to success. And I don't know, I've never tested it, but I don't think I'd find the same success had I been working at home. Just me personally, but I know everybody has to find that productive environment for you. How do you think about it?
Well, one thing's for sure, if you leave it to organic devices, you'll end up defaulting. And the default is usually a habit you've already created, which won't create a different result. So, it's a bit circular, but in order to have a different outcome, this seems obvious, obviously, but you've got to create a new habit. And so, step 1 is an environment that's conducive to a behavior different than yesterday's behavior.
Yeah.
And without it, you'll default. So it's really that simple.
The other thing about environment he talks about is you got to make sure it's separate zones. And what he said is make sure that your relaxation place is not the same place as your productive place. And I thought about all the people that try to work from the bed, right? Like that's just, we've learned that over time, but I guarantee you there's people listening to this that sit in bed on their laptop, right? Like it's just not a success habit. It doesn't mean you're bad. It just means that he's advocating that you separate those environments in your life and have a highly productive environment and have a relaxation environment, right?
Yeah, let me frame it even a little differently. If your current environment is serving you in a 10 out of 10, then keep doing it. If it's not a 10 out of 10, environment is likely a huge part of the challenge that you've now got to address.
There you go. Number 4 talking point around making it obvious, obviously, is make it invisible. And, I think the easiest one on this one, Rick, to just kind of accentuate the point is junk food. If you got it in the pantry, you're going to eat it. If you don't put it in the pantry, you're not going to eat it, right? And so remove some of the temptations. We talked about the habit loop in the setup on this book called Atomic Habits. And there's cues, right? Like we all get hungry. You wander into the pantry. And then if you see the bag of chips it cues you, creates a response, creates a craving, creates a reward, right? But if it's not there, then you've made it invisible and there was never a cue. And, it's the obvious, right? Yet it's very real.
Well, kind of back to what you said about working from home or going into the office. And again, I'm not here to tell you where you're more productive. I think you need to self-analyze and decide. But for me personally, when I got up and I dressed for success and I, took a shower and shaved first thing and early enough that I felt, there's the psychology of doing things that successful people do. And suiting up and showing up is a term I used often. I'd like to suit up and show up. And it just, the psychology of success has already planted that seed. And then by going into the office, you eliminate all the distraction, or going in, wherever that sacred space is, where it's your bunker, where you eliminate all the temptation and distraction, the odds of staying the course long enough to reap a benefit go up significantly.
There you go. So this week, guys, we really just want to challenge you. Like, what are the obvious parts of your life that maybe you need to reassess? Maybe you need to self-assess. Maybe you need the scorecard to bring some awareness. Just take a moment, let the conscious flow of what your habits in your life and how that relates to your success come into your mind, and figure out a way to make it that 1% change. What would you add?
I would just add that once you recognize that 1% change behavior and that leading indicator, the thing that if you do will eventually create a result that you'll be proud of, that defines the version of you you're after, make sure it lands on your day planner. This week, maybe go back to the wheel of life and pick one small micro step and make sure that there's an appointment established and some, that your identity is attached to that to the extent that it becomes non-negotiable.
There you go. That's a cue, right? Putting it in your day planner. It's also a success habit. It's also obvious, right?
You have to step over it to get to the next thing. So don't do it. Don't step over it. Step through it.
There you go, sir. Mojo Monday.
Mojo Monday. Be good, guys. Have an awesome week.